Hello and welcome to Secondhand Stories, a place where I tell you stories that are histories, mysteries, or unbelievistries. Those are the things I like, and if you like them too, then you're going to have fun.
The story I'm going to be telling you today is a story that's as old as time, but also a story ahead of its time. You'll find out.
Our story begins in pre-independence India. The year is 1933, and it starts on a railway platform in Kolkata. Now, on this platform, there are five people. They're waiting for a train. These people are Amrendra Chandra Pandey, his sister Bonobala, his friends Kamal Prasad and Ashok Prakash, and his stepbrother Vinendra. Now, I know like these are extremely pre independence names, and there will be a lot more. Okay, so enjoy this. So these five people are waiting for a train. They're waiting specifically for a train going from Kolkata to a place called Pakud. Pakud is a small district in Jharkhand, and these people are waiting for that train. As they're waiting, they're talking, chit chatting, hanging around, and suddenly a man steps out of the crowd. He's wearing this dirty, grimy shawl. Okay, he walks briskly towards the group and he brushes past Amrendra as he leaves. And as he brushes past Amrendra feels a prick on his arm. And he looks and he sees that there's like this liquid seeping through his kurta. Okay, his arm is hurting and there's this weird thing. And he looks up, and before he can see what's happened, the man has disappeared. What happens next becomes a very, very important case, not just in Indian history, but in world history. And I'm going to tell you what happens. But before that, we have to go a little bit in the past and set this all up. Now, let me tell you a little bit about who Amrendra Chandra Pandey was. He was the second son of a very wealthy zamindar called Pratapendra. Yes, another extremely pre-independence name. Pratapendra was a zamindar in Pakur district in Jharkhand, and he was extremely wealthy. His annual income was 1 lakh rupees, which, when you adjust for inflation, meant that he was the Ambani of Pakur district. Unfortunately, both his wives had died. The mothers of his elder son Vinendra and his younger son Amrendra had both passed away. Amrendra specifically was raised by his aunt Suryavati Devi. She didn't have kids of her own, so she really, really doted on Amrendra. And they had a very, very close bond. Then, in 1929, Pratapendra passes away. And when he dies, he leaves behind a will. Now, this will is very clear and ironclad, and it stated this. It stated that the property would be divided equally between the two boys. The only wrinkle was this, that at the time of Pratapendra's death, Vinendra was 22 years old and Amrendra was 15. He was still in school. So it was decided that the property would be in Vinendra's care, and when Amrendra turned of age, he would be given his share of the property. Now, I have to tell you a little bit about these two boys. Okay. Vinendra, the elder one, he was what is known as the classic Bade Baap Ka Bida Beta. Okay, so this guy would spend a lot of his money on every single activity that your parents wouldn't approve of if you did them. Okay, he was into drinking, he was into gambling, he was into women, he was into everything that the NCB would catch you for today. Amrendra, on the other hand, could not be any more different. Okay, he was the ideal child. Even growing up, he was interested in pursuing his higher education. He loved books. In fact, he also loved to exercise. So this guy would get up at 5 in the morning and he would work out. Okay, that's the kind of guy he was. And clearly, as you can tell, the people of Pakur had a favorite son. It was the Choto Babu. Time passes, and in 1932, Amrendra comes of age. Okay, he turns 18. And on the advice of his aunt Suryavati, he writes to Vinendra, saying, please hand me my property. Now, Suryavati had told him to do this because she knew what kind of person Vinendra was. And she was like, it's better to ask him as soon as you possibly can, before he squanders away all your property. So he sends this letter. And when he sends this letter, Vinendra does the maths. And he's like, you know what? If I give half the property, I'll have less to spend on the stuff I enjoy. So he's like, I'm not going to do it. So this angry exchange of letters starts, where Vinendra was like, I'm not going to give the property. And Amarendra is like, please give the property. And Vinendra says, I'm not going to give it. And this continues back and forth. During the Durga Puja of that year, Amarendra decides to go to meet Suryavati. She lives in a place called Devghar, which is also in Jharkhand. He goes to visit her for Durga Puja. And surprise, surprise, guess who else shows up? None other than Vinendra. Okay, he randomly appears, and both aunt and nephew are confused. They're like, why? What is he doing here? But because he's a brother, they can't turn him away. So an awkward time ensues where they're all in the same house. Then one day, Vinendra asks Amarendra, why don't we go for a walk? They go for a walk. It's a lovely evening. They're out for a walk. And then suddenly, Vinendra stops Amarendra and he says, I've got you something, Amar. And from his pocket, he pulls out spectacles. And he says, these are the finest spectacles from Kolkata. You must wear them. Okay. And while Amar is protesting, Vinendra takes the specs and jams it on his face. Okay. And as he jams it on his face, a cut forms. Now, Amar is weirded out because, firstly, who gives spectacles as a gift? As a person with specs, I can tell you that it's not a very fun gift to give. I've spent my entire school life being called dhapneya. So, it's not a fashion statement. And secondly, the behavior of his brother was extremely suspicious. Taking him out for a walk, taking out the spectacles, and then jamming them on his face. He could feel the force of the thing, and the fact that he got cut, it was odd. And he remembers telling Suryavati about it. His doubts were absolutely valid because within a few days, his face swells up. Okay, he's numb around the part where the cut was formed. Right? Doctors are called in, and when they diagnose him, they find out that he has tetanus. Now, Amarendra is being treated for tetanus. When Vinendra, who has left Devghar by this time, he hears about the news and he sends a doctor of his own. He sends a man called Taranath Bhattacharya, and he appears at the house and he tries to convince the doctors who are treating Amarendra that they should try morphine. The doctors, however, they know what they're doing and they're like, what a terrible suggestion. Get the fuck out of this place. When Taranath is rebuffed, Vinendra shows up himself, but he doesn't come alone. He comes with a second doctor. And this guy's name is Dr. Durga Ratan Dhar. Another pre-independence name. And Dr. Dhar shows up, and this time they're able to get access to Amar. And when they get access to Amar, Durga Ratan Dhar takes an injection and injects him. They claim that this injection is going to cure Amarendra. But very soon, Amarendra's situation deteriorates. His condition gets worse. He loses consciousness and his blood pressure starts fluctuating. However, Amarendra is resilient and he manages to get through the night. So what does Vinendra do next? He brings another doctor. That's right, because this guy has only one plan. So he brings a third doctor in. Okay, now this guy comes in and they try to again reach out to Amar. But by this time, Suryavati has cottoned onto the plan. She's like, 1 second, every time this guy appears with a new doctor, they make Amar worse. So she instructs everybody in the house that if you see Vinendra and his doctor friends, then make sure you show them one finger. So they managed to keep Vinendra away from Amar. A year later, he's good enough to go back to Pakur. Okay, and he goes back and he resumes his work. But he's a shadow of his former self. This was a man who was extremely vital, who liked reading, who liked exercising, and he can't do any of those things. When his friends gift him a book, he reads a few pages and then his mind can't focus. Then, in 1933, while he's in Pakur, trying to get his life back together, Amar receives a telegram. It's a telegram that says this. It says, come to Kolkata immediately, property related business. And it's signed Suryavati. Amarendra immediately packs up. He takes a train from Pakur back to Kolkata. When he reaches Kolkata, he finds out that his aunt had never sent him any such telegram. In fact, she's not even in Kolkata. He contacts his aunt, he tells her what's happened, and she gets a very, very bad feeling. She tells him, if Vinendra comes near you, just stay away from him for my peace of mind. I have a very, very bad feeling about this. And even her fears come true. Because one night, Amarendra gets a knock on the door. When he opens the door, he finds his brother. It's a very different man he's looking at. Because Vinendra is apologetic. He seems repentant. And he says, I just came to apologize. Amar makes the mistake of letting his brother into the house. And they start reminiscing, about their childhood, about their upbringing, about their father. They remember all the good times. And at the end of this conversation, Amar is feeling elated. He's feeling nice. He feels as if the brothers have a chance at reconciliation. Vinendra, on the other hand, has no such feelings. He was there for one thing and one thing only. And I'll tell you what it was later. The next day, Amar is taking a train back to Pakur. So he's at the station with his sister Bonabala, his friends Kamal Prasad and Ashok Prakash, and his stepbrother Vinendra. When suddenly a man steps out of the crowd, he's wearing a shawl and he brushes past Amar. And as he does, he pricks him on the arm. And now, knowing everything we know, you can understand why his friends and his sister are concerned on that platform. They tell him, listen, please don't board this train. Go to a doctor in Kolkata and check this out. It might be very dangerous. There's only one man who says the opposite. And that man is Vinendra, who says, Are kuch nahi hai, tu train mein baith, ja Pakur, no problem. Amarendra considers everyone's opinion and he decides that he's going to board the train. And this decision proves to be fatal. He boards the train along with his sister Bonobala and the train departs. Now, while they're on the train, Bonobala suddenly, she's feeling uneasy, right? And she voices her concern. She says to Amar that, you know what? That man who brushed past you, I think I saw him somewhere. Amar says, what do you mean? He's just a guy. He's just a person in the crowd. She says, no. I remember seeing this face. And she takes some time to recollect it. And then she says, I got it. I know where I saw this man. She says, remember we had gone to see a movie. A while before this train journey, they had gone to see a movie, okay, at a theater. And she says that, I remember seeing this man. This man was at the ticket counter. He was loitering around. I remember this vividly. And Amarendra can't believe it. He's like, you must have gotten this mistaken. Clearly, it could be anybody, and he dismisses her concerns. When the train reaches Pakur, he starts feeling worse. His health is affected. He's feeling his body is weakening, right? Very soon, his arm swells up and he gets a fever. It's 105 degrees fever, right? He's in a very bad shape. Doctors start treating him, and one doctor suggests that let's get a blood culture report. So they take some blood from Amar and they send it to a lab. And they're waiting for the results to come back. And in the interim, Amar sinks into a coma and dies. The report comes back. And when the doctors see what's written in it, they're shocked. The report says this. It says that in his blood, they found bacteria. And not just any bacteria. They found the plague. Now, it's very odd that this man could suddenly contract the plague this way, right? But the findings have come in and the case is closed, right? It's a natural death because of a disease. However, the friends and his sister, they were there at the platform. They saw what happened. So they write to the director of tropical diseases and they ask a very simple question. They ask him, is it possible to inject someone with the plague? The man writes back to them saying that it is possible, but you need a lot of it. And he says that there's one place in India where you can find it. It's a place in Mumbai. It's an institute called the Hafkin Institute. Now, basis his information, the friends go to the cops and they file an FIR. When Vinendra finds out that there's an FIR against him, he tries to flee. But thankfully, they catch him at Asansol station before he can escape. Along with Virendra, they also catch his doctor friends. They catch Taranath, they catch Durga Ratan, and they catch the third doctor. Right? They're also looking for this mystery man who was the guy who actually injected Amar with the plague. But the guy has vanished. They can't trace him. So they have these four in custody and they start questioning them. And when they question Vinendra, finally, he unravels the entire plot. He tells them that when he got the letter from Amar asking for his property, that was the day he realized that he had to kill his brother. That was the day that Amar's fate was sealed. The first thing he did was he tried tetanus. He brought those spectacles and he tried to hurt his brother. When that didn't work, he brought his retinue of doctors. But Amar was resilient. That's when Taranath Bhattacharya was a medical researcher. Okay, he used to work at a lab in Kolkata. And he had met Vinendra, and he was the one who told him about the plague and put the idea in Vinendra's head. He asked Taranath, where will you get the plague from? Taranath says, there's an institute in Mumbai called Hafkins. We can get it from there. So here's what Taranath does. He sends a telegram to Hafkins asking for plague, which is a weird telegram to send. To whom it may concern, 2.5 gram plague bhej dena. Clearly, Hafkins was like, we don't send plague this way. Taranath tells Vinendra that this is the situation. Vinendra, however, is so sold on the plague idea that he decides to go and get it himself. So he gets on a train, comes to Mumbai, and then he meets two doctors from Hafkin. How he meets them, I don't know, but I'm assuming he was standing outside the gate. And when two people exited, he was like, ch-ch. So he meets them, he wines them, he dines them, he takes them out, he splurges money on them, and he bribes them. And all of this works. Eventually, the doctors relent and they say that, all right, we'll help you out. And what they do is they give him 2 vials of the plague. And they do one better. They install Taranath at a bacteria lab in Mumbai as a bacteriologist. And over there, Taranath buys white mice and he experiments on them to see what dose of the plague would be lethal. The last part of the plan was this. Once they had the plague and they knew how much to administer, they had to find someone to do it. And that's when the last guy comes in. And here you also find out that Bonabala was absolutely right. Because Vinendra had sent this man to the movie theater so that he could get a look at his victim. He was there and Bonabala had seen him and she was absolutely right. The final piece of this mystery is, why did Vinendra show up at Amarendra's house one night before he was leaving? He wasn't there to reminisce with his brother. He was there for one thing and one thing only. And that was to find out what time Amarendra's train was leaving from Kolkata. The case goes to court and it's a fairly simple conviction because there's a lot of evidence. Everything from the telegram that Taranath had sent Hafkins asking for the plague to train tickets and that showed Vinendra had traveled to Mumbai. There was handwritings samples of Vinendra in the ledger at Hafkins. There was a receipt for the white mice that Taranath had murdered. And there was a lot more circumstantial evidence. All of this was put together and eventually Vinendra was convicted. He was sent to jail at the cellular jail in Andaman and Nicobar, where he carried out a lengthy sentence. And this case became significant because it was one of the first few cases of individual bioterrorism anywhere in the world. And that's the story of the Amarendra Pandey murder case. So that's the story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then drop a like and a comment below. If you have other stories that you'd like me to cover, then also leave the link in the comments below. There will be newer stories coming soon. Until then, bye-bye.